this thing about culture fit is, and I said this on an American podcast almost 10 years ago, and it got met with a little bit of derision. But I said, look, hiring for culture is just code for discrimination, really. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and I believe
so.
that. In the most part, there'll be exceptions, there always are. But by and large, we need to see if they're going to fit our culture. I mean, seriously, what a load of horseshit that is, yeah? We are all, to a greater or lesser extent, social animals, and we want to fit in. Even me, if I go and work on a project with a group of people, 10, 20 people for 3 or 6 months, I want to fit in. I want to get on with people. I want to be valued. I want to contribute. And that's what people do. So if they've got the skills, don't obsess about the fringe stuff. So can they do the job? Do they want to do the job? And does it make sense for them to do the job in terms of the commute, the money, the where it fits in relation to their career? Look, I'll finish this off with one thing. In all of my experience in recruitment, which is 33 years now, I don't know how many hundreds of jobs I feel. Maybe it's probably into the thousands, maybe, I don't know. But it's anecdotally, of all the people who have done really well in jobs that I've been involved in placing them in, and if we measure that, certainly one of the most obvious ways of measuring job effectiveness is length of stay. Yeah, how long they stay. Nearly all of those people who've gone on to do well have been people for whom that new job represented logical career evolution for what they were doing previously. It could be the exact same job, but they're doing it on a bigger scale, or they're doing it in an environment where the challenges and the questions they're being asked are different. I remember, I'll give you a real life example. When I worked in Switzerland, I did quite a lot of work in corporate affairs for a tobacco company, an American tobacco company. Well, they're all American, aren't they? Most of them. Anyway, and of course, tobacco was a red hot issue. It was in a holy war with the WHO at the time, and corporate affairs is right at the front line of that whole thing. Yeah, be it media relations, government relations, issues management, whatever. And of course, I was talking to people who came from companies like P&G or Nestle, and one of the ways I got them interested in working for a tobacco company was say, look, you're going to be asked questions that are entirely different to the questions you've been asked up to now, because Pampers or yogurt is not tobacco. It's nowhere near as politically charged or culturally charged, so it's going to make you better at your job because it's a tougher environment. So, I think, people want to fit in, but they also want to prove themselves, and people that need to prove themselves tend to work harder, and people that work harder tend to do better. Go figure.
I want to push you just a little bit on the culture thing, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
How do you define that? What is your definition of, when you hear match the company culture?
Yeah.
What's your vision of that? Is that the same color, the male, female, race, religion?
Well, we talk on the radar or off the radar. On the radar, it's do they match our values? The values that they have on the wall or that they put on their website. We're passionate about, we believe in, all that stuff. It's all kind of soft and flaky.
So that's your definition.
Well, that's what most people's definition, but then the under the radar stuff tends to then touch things like, race, religion, politics, sexuality, and often it comes down to the hiring manager asking themselves the following question in their head: would I go and have a beer with this person?
And you don't think that should factor in?
No, I really don't. I really, really don't. No.
Okay.
Well, okay. No, hang on. There's a caveat. There's always a caveat. If it's a small business, then maybe I've got more sympathy for that kind of line of thinking. But in big organizations, I don't think it makes any difference. There's no one culture in a big organization. There's lots of subcultures. Okay. Yeah. But
so candidate personality to culture fit in small to startup companies may apply. Bigger companies doesn't apply.
A little bit more so. I'm more forgiving if people make more subjective decisions if they're working for a small company where there's only 5 or 6 of you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But it's a bit of a hedge, I know. But no, I don't believe in culture fit. I really don't. By and large.
Okay. Can I ask one more question on this? Would you define culture is part of the definition of culture this example? I want to give this example. Let's say it's a small company, family-owned company, and it's a loud company. The founder's loud, curse words, throwing stuff in the conference room.
Right.
Just it's a very aggressive atmosphere.
Yeah.
Is that a definition of company culture for you?
Yeah, it is. It is, and
Okay,
it has to be
okay.
addressed. It has to be
And
addressed.
would you put a candidate that is a librarian, super meek, timid personality in that environment?
Depends on the job. If the job is being a librarian, potentially, but most of the companies with those types of cultures, we're normally talking about a sales culture, aren't we? Yeah, you don't see that type of culture in other departments. It's normally in sales, and
Okay.
you often see it in boiler room environments, cold calling environments, recruitment
Okay.
environments
Okay.
in general.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be addressed. If that's the culture, that's the culture. You know, I've recruited for companies where there's been quite a swearing culture, so you've got to be able to, you know, be comfortable with hearing people swear. And if you're not, so I used to use profanity in some of the ads to let people know.
Would you put the super religious, conservative, quiet, meek, timid personality in that culture?
Yeah, potentially. I'd lay it out and say, look, this is what goes on here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still think people can be successful if they don't buy into that type of behavior. I don't see, depends on the job, obviously, but you know, they're secondary and third factors for me. The main factors are, do you have the skills and the knowledge to be able to do this job? And does it make sense?
Would you put an animal rights activist that's a vegan in a job that
Butcher shop? No.
makes
In an abattoir? No, definitely not. No way.
Okay,
No,
so culture does matter now. Now that
you're pushing things to extremes here, Steve, a little bit, aren't you? Yeah? I'm talking about the run-of-the-mill white-collar jobs in
Okay.
in general.
Can we agree that sometimes culture matters? It's not a black and white thing.
No, of course, nothing is black and white. Very little is black and white. There's always lots of gray areas, situational context, but by and large, I think it's overrated. Let's put it
overrated. Okay, that's all right. Okay, I'll go with that. Oh, my friend, I love talking to you about these topics, man. We could just go forever.